All right, and on to I would say, in my opinion, the game of the day, the game of the week, even though we only have 2 games left. We got the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, and boy, do I have quite a lot to say about this game. But not much to say about Buffalo. For Buffalo, man, me personally, I don't want to sound biased, but Buffalo to me is a team that just, I don't know, man. They just seem like, they get to the playoffs, every year, at least for the last few seasons, and then they just find a way to just disappoint everybody. This year, they at the beginning of the year in the offseason, they got rid of Stephon Diggs, traded him to Houston because supposedly that was going to make the offense better or make the team better, or that was going to make a difference, the number one receiver on your team. Well, they did that for whatever reason, I don't know. But so it immediately fell on the shoulders of Josh Allen to carry this team because they didn't really have a number one target. I would have to argue that Dalton Kincaid, the tight end, is the number one target. You got Shakir, and then you got our boy Coleman, from Opelousas. But outside of that, they really don't throw the football that much. They did pick up Cooper as well, but they've relied on Josh Allen, mainly his legs, I would say. He only threw for 3,700 yards, 28 touchdowns, 6 picks. But he rushed for 531 yards and 12 touchdowns, and James Cook backed him up by going over 1,000 with 16 touchdowns, So and that's the thing with this team. When they get in the red zone, similar to Philadelphia, man, they punch it in. That's kind of been the biggest difference. And I think running the football more and being more oriented on the run has helped Josh Allen to not turn the ball over as much and through the passing game, which has allowed them to possess the ball more and control and dictate the terms of the game. And so to me, that's been the biggest difference this year. Outside of that, though, I mean, really, Buffalo isn't really, they really don't have much else going for them, in my opinion. They don't really have a lot of explosiveness in the offense. And, their defense is kind of, okay. There's nothing special about it. I mean, they don't really, they kind of bend, but they don't break. But, last week we watched Baltimore, go up and down the field on them. And the only thing that seemed to stop Baltimore was drops and turnovers. And, and don't get me started with that football game. My goodness. From the Baltimore perspective, And so, Buffalo, to me, can y'all get over the hump, man? Can y'all get over the hump? That's the question all of the Buffalo fans have to be asking themselves is, can we get over the hump? Because we played Kansas City a few years ago, three seasons ago. We thought we had the game won. They go down the field in 12 seconds, force overtime. They beat us. Then we get Cincinnati at home. Joe Burrow and the crew, they come in there and stump us out in the snow, of all places. I thought, playing in Buffalo, Orchard Park's supposed to be Bills Mafia is supposed to be an advantage. Well, it wasn't that year. And then Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs, you play the Chiefs again last year, and they do the same thing. They find a way to beat you. So with Buffalo, to me, is that they make the playoffs, and then they seem to fizzle out. And so can they get it done? On the other side of the token, we have the complete opposite. We have a team that no matter what the situation seems to be, at least for the last couple of seasons, they find a way to get it done. And y'all know who I'm talking about. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs somehow, who are, in my opinion, is flying under the radar at 15-2. Well, be honest, man, I'm going to just say, man, look, they 14-1. Man, that last game, it don't count. They sat everybody down because they had locked up the number one seed by Christmas. So I know Denver beat the brakes off them, but they had to do that to get into the playoffs, and they had all their starters sitting anyway, so that don't count. So essentially, what I'm saying is the Chiefs only really lost one game this season, and ironically, it was to the Buffalo Bills. So I might sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but hear me out. I'm going somewhere with this. Because Kansas City, I've never heard a team that to only really lose a couple of games just fly under the radar because they're not really, blowing people out per se. they've had so many close games. We've seen them win so many games this season to, well, I think people are kind of taking that for granted. And also people just dislike them for whatever reason because they think they get, favoritism from the refs with some of the calls. And look, I'm not going to address that today. That's a bunch of foolishness. But, I'm keeping it on this game particularly. We're not going to visit the past, at least today. But, man, knock it off with all of the silly comments about the referees and the script and all of that. Look, man, let's just enjoy some good football. Listen, the Chiefs like them, hate them, love them, whatever you want to do with them. They win in ball games, and they find ways to win ball games. And you can't, to me, as an adult, as a rational adult, if you can just hear me out for a second, I understand sports are very irrational at times and, fans can be emotional. But a team that shows this model of success and consistency, man, ain't nothing you should be able to do but respect them. You might not like them, and I'm saying you got to like them, I wouldn't like them if they was in my division or something like that. But at the end of the day, they win, and they find ways to win. Andy Reid has found ways to win. Patrick Mahomes has found ways to win, and their defense find ways to win. So with that being said, man, we got a team that's notoriously known for, wetting the bed, for lack of better terms, going up against a team, the two-time Super Bowl defending champions, but also a team this year that have been through all kind of tests and injuries, but somehow found ways to win. And so the key area, or I would say is the key focus of this game, it's the battle in the red zone. The teams are pretty even from the standpoint of, offensive efficiency. And, I'm not going to compare the quarterbacks. I know that's what everybody like to do, at least not on this episode. It's kind of late to kind of talk about who the MVP is. I can touch on that a little bit. I will say this. I believe Josh Allen will win the MVP award. But I think Lamar Jackson should win it, but I don't think he's going to win it. I think he had the more efficient season, but I don't think he's going to win it because, I believe in such thing as voters fatigue. And since he already got two, I think they want to kind of give it to somebody different. So that's just kind of my opinion on it. But I would have to say that, Lamar Jackson. If I was voting, I would vote for Lamar, but I understand if Josh wins it. I'm not trying to say he don't deserve it. I'm just saying I think Lamar was, he was nasty this year, man. This was the best, especially throwing the football. That was the biggest knock on him. But this is not a Lamar Jackson subject, so we'll keep it moving right along. But back to the red zone offenses. Josh Allen, much like, Jalen Hurts and that tush push, when they get inside the red zone, him and James Cook have combined for 26 touchdowns this year. So when they get in, they are, I believe, the number one team in red zone efficiency as far as, not settling for field goals and scoring touchdowns. And so Kansas City is pretty good. I think they're 7th in the league at preventing touchdowns in the red zone. So I think that battle on both sides as well. Kansas City is not as efficient on offense as far as the red zone goes, but that could be because of the competition, which is something I didn't mention, which I'll mention in a second. But the Bills, on a converse side, aren't as good at stopping touchdowns when you can get down there in the red zone on them. I think they're ranked like 18th or something. I'd have to look it up, but I kind of, I got some notes here, some statistics, but I don't want to talk too much about that. I do love analytics and I do love data, but just for the sake of, just getting back into it, I didn't want to spend too much time rambling off boring numbers to y'all. I just wanted to kind of get to the meat and potatoes of everything. But with that being said, I think also equally important is the turnovers. One of the biggest reasons to me why Kansas City lost the first game was because I can remember on the first drive, Patrick Mahomes threw an interception. That kind of set the tone for the rest of the game. You could kind of tell that he was pressing. And that's kind of the weakness of Mahomes. He has moments, through all the greatness where sometimes he tries to do too much with the football. And that's kind of, something all great players do. I've seen a lot of great quarterbacks try to force the ball and make things happen that aren't there, But when he lets the game come to him, it's nothing you can really do to slow him down, Buffalo, as mentioned earlier, has been able to limit the turnovers of Josh Allen, keep him from doing that because they keep the ball on the ground and they control the clock. They keep you on the field on third down, and they just grind you out, and that way you don't have to really put the ball in harm's way. Most of the time they're running the football, so that's kind of, a low turnover style of offense. And if I'm not mistaken, I think James Cook only fumbled the ball one time all season. That's incredible. So when you have that type of ball control, you're not going to turn the ball over much. But I would have to say whoever takes care of the football in this game is the team that's going to win the game. And because that's what happened the last time they played. That was, to me, the biggest reason why the Bills won was because they took care of the football. Whereas the Chiefs, I think they turned it over a couple of times. But as I said before, can Buffalo get over the hump? Is this the year they finally knock off the Chiefs? I'm sorry, Bills fans. I don't see that happening, man. I just don't see that happening. I've watched this movie once too many times, and it all ends the same. Somehow the Chiefs find a way to win and Buffalo find a way to lose. And that's not to try to take a cheap shot at Buffalo. I do think the game will be close, but I just think somehow, some way the Chiefs win a close, hard-fought game at the end. We're going to be in Arrowhead. The Chiefs have only lost twice at Arrowhead in the last 7 or 8 years, and that was the time Tom Brady came back and beat him, and that was the time the other time was the time Joe Burrow came back and beat him. So, and both of those games were in the AFC Championship. I just don't see, Buffalo having, I just don't see them getting it done. I just don't see them getting it done. Unless Kansas City turn the ball over profusely and just have a lot of, ignorant penalties, too many procedural penalties, holding, false start, offsides. I think the Chiefs just find a way to win the game, and that's just kind of my pick. So I would go with the Chiefs on that.